constants, two magic numbers, that when you multiply those two numbers, you get your AC, and when you add those two numbers, you get your B. Okay. And when you find those two magic pair of numbers, then your binomials, because you get a binomial times a binomial, and when you FOIL those binomials, you go back to a quadratic trinomial. FOILing gives you 4 terms, but if this is a quadratic trinomial, has those like terms, so you're going to end up with a middle term, 2 middle terms that become 1 term, so you end up with a trinomial. So you're going to get 2 binomials that will FOIL and become a trinomial, and that is magic pair of numbers. It's either going to x plus or minus, depending on the sign, the first number, and x plus or minus, depending on the sign, the second number. Boom, you're done. Okay? Now, the smaller numbers you can do mentally, and I also show you how to find them on a calculator. If you've got bigger numbers. You don't want it for small numbers, this becomes a crutch. Okay? For bigger numbers, it's a good tool. Okay? So I'll show you how to use that. So that's the setup, so let me show you how that works. And I'm going to be a little fast, and I may go a couple minutes over. I understand if you have to leave at time, please don't pack up before time. I understand if you have to leave and you can't stay, but I will probably go a couple minutes over just at least to show you the calculator. Okay? I'll try and write things up and post them as well for everyone, because I know it's going a little fast. But okay. So first, I want you to think about sign patterns for a second first. So if I take, if I have, let's say, x plus 6 times x minus 3. So I'm just going to FOIL that. Okay? So I'm not factoring, I'm FOIL. I'm going the other direction. So F-O-I-L. So first terms, outside term, inside term, last term. Now your O, because we had like terms and like terms, that means our O plus our I can be added. These are like terms. Okay? So we got O plus I here, and so this becomes, our FOIL, 4 term becomes a trinomial. X squared plus 3x minus 18. Okay? And it is now in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay? So FOIL, F-O-I-L, on 4 terms, when we multiply 2 binomials, becomes our quadratic trinomial if we've got these just x terms to the first and constant terms second. We will always end up with this quadratic trinomial. Okay? Now, look what happens. The L in FOIL is multiplying those last terms, and those last terms are constants. So if those last terms are constants, you get an L that is either positive or negative. And that L, that constant, is the same thing as your C. So when I say L or C, I'm talking about the same number. Okay? Now, if your C, like in this case, if your C is negative, so your C right here is, let me put this, your C is a product. It's a product of your 2 constants. Okay? So in this case, it's positive 6 times negative 3. That gave you your L, and so that C is a product. And how do you get a negative product? With 2 positives, 2 negatives, or a mix? A mix. So if your C is negative, like here, then you know you're going to have mixed signs in your binomials. Because the only way to get a negative L, which is a negative C, is if you have mixed signs, 1 plus, 1 minus. Now, if your C is positive, what's the only way you can get a positive product? Or 2 positives. Yeah. If your C is positive, okay, so to sum it up, if C is positive, then you either have x plus a number, or you have x minus the number. I'm using K1 and K2 for those numbers. X minus the other number. If C is positive, the only way to get that positive product is with 2 positives or 2 negatives when you FOIL. Okay? And if C is negative, that last term is negative, what's the only way to get a negative product? Mixed sign. So we'll have an x plus one of our k's, and we'll have an x minus one of our k's. Okay? Mixed signs in our binomials. Okay? Now, how do you know if it's 2 pluses or 2 minuses? How do you know if it's 2 pluses or 2 minuses? These are not necessarily factorable. I'm just putting some numbers in there just to see the contrast. So you might have a quadratic trinomial with 2 pluses, or you might have a quadratic trinomial, the trinomial is, and this, let's say this is, this one I'll show. So that would be like minus, don't try and factor these, they're not necessarily factorable. But here we've got a positive c, right? And the only way to get a positive c, a positive product, is with 2 pluses or 2 minuses. So how do you know which is which? If you got a positive c here, is this going to be 2 pluses or 2 minuses? Because you're going to have your sum in the middle, your O plus I is going to be a positive plus a positive. Okay, so your sum in the middle is going to be positive. This one is a positive c. How do you know if it's 2 pluses or 2 minuses? Yeah. Well, this is a positive product, right? You get a positive product with plus times plus, or? Yeah. Well, if you've got plus times plus, then you've got plus 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 as your O plus your I. If you've got minus times minus, you've got a negative L, a negative, I'm sorry, if you got minus times minus, you've got a positive L, a positive C.
Okay, so that's going to be...
But you're adding 2 negatives in the middle. Yeah. So if you've got a positive C, a positive product, you either got 2 pluses or 2 minuses. How do you know which one? The middle term will tell you. Positive C means you've got signs are the same. 2 pluses or 2 minuses. Okay. If you've got a let's say x squared plus 9x minus 18, or x squared minus 9x minus 18, you've got a negative c. So what is your binomial going to look like? Your binomials. 2 pluses, 2 minuses, or a mix? A mix. Negative product requires a plus times, and it doesn't matter what's in the middle in this case. Huh?
If it's negative.
Yeah, if it's negative at the end, the negative product, you're going to get a mix of signs. So either one of these is x plus k1, x minus k1. It doesn't matter what the middle is, because if the c is negative, it's going to be mixed signs. And this is going to be 2 pluses, and this one will be 2 minuses. You have to look, if it's positive c, you have to look at the middle and tell you which 2 it is. Okay. Now that's a lot, but as you are factoring these, they start to look for those patterns. Okay. That was kind of a lot to put out there as a way to think, but so really quick at the end. But I will scan in these notes as well. And every time you're factoring a trinomial, think about that sign pattern. How do I know what the 2 signs of the answer are? And look at your C and start to just absorb that. As you're doing the homework, that'll become, just look for those patterns every time you do a homework problem, and then it'll become ingrained. So let me show an example of this x, of the x process that I use. Okay? So let's do x squared plus 9x plus 20. Okay. All right, so let's identify first what is your AC and what is your B, because the ACB method. So what is your AC? But what number is it? What's my A?
1.
And what's my C? So A times C, positive 20. If A equals 1, then your AC is just your C. Okay. If there was a different number here besides 1, then it would be this number times that. Okay. And B is positive 9. Okay. So I'm going to draw my X, and I've got my AC goes on top, and my B goes on the bottom. And I am looking for this magic pair of numbers, and are they going to be, what about my sign pattern? If I have, my answer I know is going to be 2 binomials, x and x, because x times x makes x squared, and am I going to have 2 pluses, 2 minuses, or a mix? 2 pluses. A positive C means same sign. Middle says 2 pluses instead of 2 minuses. Okay? So I can even set up the form of my final answer. Okay? And so now I need to find the numbers that go there. Okay? So I need a magic pair of numbers that multiplies. There's one pair of numbers that are going to multiply to make 20, but add to make 9. 5 and 4, yeah. Now, if I knew that I was going to have like a mixed sign pattern or 2 negatives, I'd go ahead and put negatives, like a negative in one of them or a negative in both. and then find my magic pair of numbers. I know these are both positive, so I just know that's 4 and 5. And they're both positive. And I do a check. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 plus 5 is 9. And so that's my answers. X plus 4 and X plus 5. And I can FOIL to check. I get back here. Table?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like, well, I learned it another way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, this is the only way I'm teaching it. But if you have another way that works for you, then you're welcome to use any other strategy. Yeah. This is just, I think it's probably a table is an ACB method or a guess and check method, which just kind of is. This X is just a way to organize.
It's kind of the same thing. It's just
Yeah.
doing it as
Yeah.
a table.
I just find like it helps the brain see what you're doing this way, but if you already have another way that works for you, not a problem. Okay, real quick, and this is going to be kind of quick, and I apologize, but let me do another example just to show you another variation. Okay, so, and as far as the calculator, I'll stay after and show the calculator real quick. If you have to go, I'm also going to post a handout on how to use the calculator to help you with factors, and we'll go over that more on Tuesday. But to finish up, here's an example: 5x squared minus 45x plus 70. What's the first thing you do? GCF, right. I'm like, oh no, my A is not equal to 1, which is always the most tedious ones to do. I'm not going to lie about that. But if your first question is GCF, then maybe, things are going to change. Yeah, they have a numerical GCF of 5. Okay. So I pull out that 5, and I'm left with x squared minus 9x plus 14. Okay. Now 5 is part of my answer. That is a factor. I'm also going to have 2 more binomials. Right? If I can factor this. So 5 is part of the answer. It's not going away, but I'm done with it. There's nothing else to do with it. The other thing I want to do, and this is just me, is I will take my A, C, and B from the wrong place. If I take out GCF, this is my new thing I'm factoring. I'm done with 5. So I personally cross out my original problem so I don't accidentally take my A, C, B from there. Because here I'm like, okay, I'm done with 5. Can I keep going? Well, this is a quadratic trinomial, so let's see if I got my AC and my B. What's my AC? 14. 1 times 14. What's my B? Right. Now, I'll even go, because I'll forget about that 5 if I'm not careful. So I go ahead and write the form of my final answer. My final answer is going to have a GCF. It's going to have 3 factors, a GCF of 5, and then it's going to have 2 binomials. And because A equals 1, then it's going to be x times x. And my sign pattern is going to be 2 pluses, 2 minuses, or a mix. I've got a positive product here. Yeah, positive product means either 2 pluses or 2 minuses. 2 minuses. Yeah. So if the positive C, you're going to have the same sign. The middle term will tell you which ones. This is 2 minuses. So when I set up my x, my AC is 14, and my B is negative 9. And I know I'm going to have 2 minuses, so I'm going to go ahead, before I even figure out the number, I'm going to go ahead and put a minus sign in both of those. Okay? If it was mixed signs, I put a minus in one, and then, and I have to figure out which one's minus, which one's plus. That's the thing. 2 pluses, 2 minuses, no problem, find the 2 numbers. 1 plus, 1 minus, you have to be a little more careful to put the minus with the correct one. Okay? So now I'm all set up. I know sign pattern to expect, so I need to find 2 numbers that multiply, 2 negative numbers that multiply to make positive 14, and those 2 negative numbers also have to add to make negative 9. And what will those be? Yeah, and because they're both negative, it doesn't matter which is which. So I have my 5 GCF, and my magic pair of numbers is -2 and -7. Now if you had mixed signs, make sure whatever you have here you put in the right place if you set it up beforehand. Now to check, I'm going to FOIL. I'll cover up the 5 and FOIL this, and make sure I get back to this. And then I'll distribute the 5 and make sure I get back to that.
So to check it, you have to get the top and then FOIL.
Yes. Yeah. This is 3 factors. You can multiply in any order, but generally the cleanest way is if you have a GCF and do the binomials first, and then the last thing is distribute. Otherwise, sometimes you end up double dipping, distributing to both separate binomials, and that would be wrong. That would be using 5 twice. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. What I'm going to do right now, and I'll write it up too, but if you can stay for 2 more minutes, I'll show you how to find things on the calculator. And if you can't, don't worry, I'll write it up and we'll go over a little on Tuesday. But for those who want to go ahead, if you have a couple minutes, I'm going to show that, and then I'm going to go downstairs to the lab. Okay? So the calculator system of doing this. Okay. On your calculator, you go to y equals like you're entering an equation. Okay. You're not going to graph anything, though. You're going to use an equation to look at a table. So you go to y1, and you are going to enter whatever your AC is divided by x. So you figure out your AC and then divide by x. You want to find out what numbers will divide into that. Remember, AC and the x is a product. So you want to find things that are going to divide into it. You're going to find the factor pairs of 14 is what you're doing. Okay? Now, when you do that, the calculator chooses x's and it spits out y1s. So when I put in this case, I'll do 14 divided by x. Okay? And now I go to the, not the graph, but the graph button. Above that is the table button. So I do second graph to get the table. Okay? Now, make sure, you got 0 in the middle. And look, if you go up, notice how both numbers are negative, and you go down, both numbers are positive. You want to go up or down? Up. So I'm looking, these are my factor pairs. The calculator chooses the x's, and when it divides AC by x, here's the other member of the factor pair. So negative 1 times negative 14 is positive 14. Negative 2 times negative 7 is positive 14. Okay. Anything with decimals you throw out. Now you can make our life even easier and add a third column. Because right now you have to go through and find a factor pair that adds up to negative 9. And you can do that mentally. But let's go back to y equals. Arrow down so you're doing y2. And for y2, you want to say, hey, calculator, go back. If I take column 1, which is the x's, plus column 2, which is y1s, these are our factor pairs. Take these two numbers and add them up for me. Give me a third column where you do the addition. So instead of having to go through and find factor pairs and add them up in my head, I can just look down this third column and I'm looking for my b. My b is my sum. I'll be looking down this third column for negative 9 because the calculator is going to do the addition. So how do I tell the calculator to do the addition? Well, this column is y2. So I have to say, in y2, I want you to add x plus y1. Okay? So for y2, I'm going to go back to y equals, and I'll choose y2. I'm going to put in x, which is just my variable button here, plus, and now I need to put in y1 because I want to add column y1 to it. How do I do that? How do I find y1? Y1 is in what's called the vars button, the variables button. Okay. So that is this button right here under the arrows. Okay. And you arrow over 1 to get to y vars because you want a y variable. So that's highlighted. And then you want a function, so you just push enter. And you want it to be y1, so you just push enter. So it's vars, arrow over to y vars, and then enter, enter. Okay. So that, having done that, look what happens when I go back to my table. Oh, yeah, no, okay. So I'll go to my table, second table, there we go. Now, here's my factor pairs. 1 times negative 1 times negative 14, negative 2 times negative 7, also 1 times 14, 2 times 7. But all I'm doing is looking for my sum. I'm looking for my b. My b is negative 9, and I'm just looking for what happens when I add those factor pairs. Oh, there's my b, negative 9. Which means my magic pair of numbers was negative 7 and negative 2. Okay? For numbers like this, I hope you have or develop the mental skills, because the calculator will slow you down for ones like this. This was just an example, but when you're dealing with bigger numbers, or you hit a wall, I start with really big number factoring. It's a great tool. I use it. Okay? But don't rely on it for this, but you can certainly practice it with these to get the skills. Okay. I was really rushed there at the end. I will be writing a lot of this stuff up, and we'll be practicing more on Tuesday, but practice yourself over the weekend so you're ready with questions and problems. And I will be down in the lab in about 5 minutes.